should I spend money today or save it for tomorrow? That's actually the wrong question. The question you want to ask is, what am I going to regret in the future?
I'm Rich Roll, endurance athlete turned wellness advocate. I'm breaking out of the studio to meet up with some extraordinary humans with one thing in common. They have no plans to slow down. We'll dive deep and find out what it takes, physically, mentally, and financially, to keep doing the things we love. Today, I'm meeting up with Morgan Housel, New York Times bestselling author of The Psychology of Money. Everybody knows you as the Psychology of Money guy, but is there anything that's changed about the ideas that were in that book as a result of experiencing it yourself, or something that surprised you?
I think maybe the most stark is what making a little bit of money does not do for you. Does my daughter love me more now? No. Do I get along with my family better or worse? No. Like, the things that actually matter don't change whatsoever, no matter how much money you make in that situation. But I actually think in their core, in their soul, what a lot of people want out of money is just to reduce uncertainty in their life.
This is a very general question, but what are the most common misconceptions people have around their finances, saving, thinking about the future?
I think one is the misconception of how long you are likely to live. If you have a husband and wife who are 40 years old, statistically, one of you is going to live till 90. And so a lot of people, if they're saving for the future, their vision of what the future might be is probably much short of what it actually might be. And we're fortunate to live in a world where we might be living a very long time, but a lot of people are not necessarily prepared for that. One other very common misconception in investing is that you, the little individual, can't do it because there are so many big, powerful hedge funds out there who are doing it, and the odds are stacked against you. I think that was true 100 years ago. It's very much not the case anymore. There's been a democratization of investing that if you're even starting with $100 and you're going out and investing in a couple stocks that you enjoy, you can do well over time. If you have the right mindset and the right psychology, anybody with a small amount of money can do well over time. And I think we're fortunate to live in a world where those financial products and that structure exists.
So how does your guidance or advice change depending upon stage of life? Like, let's say you're in the process of building a new family.
I think so. Early on, when you're young, you're building a family, maybe your career is a little bit more fragile, you're really concerned about downside protection at that point. And yes, you're saving, you're investing in the future, but that's also when you really want to make sure that there's a cap on your downside, that you're not going to be thrown into an area that you can't recover from. As you age a little bit, you're spending, you're saving, your income's going up a little bit. That's when you're saving for the future. You're saving for long-term investments, you're buying annuities. That's that phase of life. As you get a little bit older, maybe you have aging parents you need to care for, you have estate planning you need to care for. That's when that phase of life becomes much more about your legacy.
Are there like specific financial products that are good for those sorts of unforeseen events that, you might recommend to people?
The first line of defense for a lot of people can be a big chunk of savings that you have. And again, you don't need to be saving for anything in specific. It's your emergency fund, it's right there. Insurance after that can be great. Medical insurance, life insurance, all that you have right there. I think there's something to be said too, that having just room for error in your finances is super important in the long run as well.
So how can I protect myself, from a financial perspective against, something bad happening in the future?
I think so much of the financial industry is based off of how do I become wealthier? How can I grow my money? And that's important. But it can be very overlooked how much people just want to remove uncertainty from their life and be protected on the downside. Doing it with something like an annuity, where you're not going to become the richest person in the world doing it, but you're removing a lot of uncertainty in your life. That money's going to be coming in for your expenses in the future. Disability insurance if you can't work. Those are all very important things for protecting downside that are so easy to ignore when you're making a financial plan.
Many years ago, I had a really nasty crash, and it was scary. And if I had medical insurance, that's fine. But there were all kinds of other costs that came into play that I didn't anticipate. And so it's left me thinking about other things I could do in the future or now, that would be helpful should such an event occur. So like, how do you think about that?
It'll happen to everybody in some version. For you as a cycling accident, for some people it might be job loss, medical illness, divorce, whatever it might be. that everyone's going to reach some point in their life that they did not see coming. They were not necessarily planning for it, but it happened, and now it's here. You can be optimistic about the future with your investments, but still go out of your way to kind of protect your downside. And I think the people who do best financially balance those things. Very optimistic about the long run, and very realistic about how hard it might be to get there, and needing to cap your downside with insurance or savings, whatever it might be, to mitigate those risks that all of us are going to face eventually.
What do you see when you look around and say like, that people are doing with money and their finances where you're like, if they only knew, or if they just did this one thing, their life would be so much better?
I actually sometimes do the opposite, where I see people making decisions that don't make any sense to me. And I try to take a step back and say, look, I think that's crazy. I would never do it. But something's going on in your life that's making you do that maybe I don't understand. And I know there's people who might look at things I do with my money and say, that's wrong, you shouldn't be doing that. But I would say, look, no, given my life and my family and my personality, this is actually the right thing to do. There's not one right way to save money, spend money, invest money. It's all a very individual endeavor. And that's one of the reasons having a financial advisor is so important, because there's not a one-size-fits-all solution. You got to sit down and figure it out for yourself. Sometimes the most valuable financial asset that you have is not needing to impress other people and turning the spotlight inwards. That can be so incredibly valuable. It's an asset on your personal balance sheet, whether you know it or not. And so, I think that social side of money is really important. And I think it's just taking a step back and look in the mirror and say, what am I trying to do here? Am I trying to give myself a better life, or compete in this social aspiration rat race that is actually a game that's impossible to win?
One of the big differences between generations past and our generation is that those generations sort of deferred their pastimes to a future date, like work, 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 and then I'll enjoy my life. Whereas now we appreciate our pastimes in the current moment, and we want to be able to continue doing them, right? So I guess my question for you has to do with how we plan our finances around our ability to be able to continue to do the things that we love.
Yeah, I've never seen a lot of value in saving everything until you're 75 years old and you retire, and that's when you're going to enjoy it. It's always a balance between, yes, you want to hopefully retire someday, and you're going to need a pot of money to do that, because you might live longer than you expect. But let's enjoy ourselves along the way as well.
I have no doubt that you're incredibly conscientious about, where you spend your money, but you must have a guilty pleasure or an indulgence.
We recently got a nice house that was way more than we intended to spend, but it's great. And our kids are happy, my wife's happy, that's great. I don't view that as wasted money whatsoever. I hope
No,
that's
I would never say that. I was thinking
money.
Like you collect Pokemon cards or something,
Something silly.
What a pleasure talking to Morgan Housel. So many great takeaways here. His balanced view on saving for the future and living in the present is a gift for all of us who wish to live life to the fullest.